I'll now call to order the Thursday, February 22nd, 2024 meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Good evening, Commissioners. Let's move to item 2, public comment. Is there anyone who has signed up for public comment
No
this
one
evening?
signed up.
Anybody who's joined us tonight would like to make public comment? Seeing none, I will close the public comment period. Commissioners, we are not going to approve the minutes. We'll approve both this meeting and the next, in the previous meeting's minutes the next time we convene. So I'll move along to item 4, public hearing. Public hearing will receive and hear all persons desiring to be heard on 2 items tonight. First, a proposed amendment to Sugar Land Development Code Tables 2-71.1 and 2-91.1, amending the land use matrices for residential and non-residential land uses. And then the second public hearing item, well, why don't I open the public hearing for that item? Is there anyone wishing to address the commission on that first item?
I think we want to.
I'm sorry?
It's after the staff presentation that the public hearing's open.
Okay, then I'll go ahead and continue. The second item, we'll open the public hearing on the proposed amendment to the following ordinances listed on the agenda, removing SIC 5993, tobacco stores and stands, and ordinance 2307, removing tobacco and hookah retail store as allowed uses. This is to align with the recent modifications to the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 3, Article 8, which further limited smoking in public places and took effect December 31st, 2023. So Laura, I'll turn it over to you.
Sounds good. So tonight I'm going to run through the background of kind of what we're talking about, and then that's a summary of changes with any follow-up to those changes based on comments we heard last week. Then we will have the public hearing. After the close of the public hearing, we can move into questions for staff, clarification, anything like that. And then we will have 2 consideration and actions. It'll be 2 separate votes. That'll be one for the Development Code Amendment and then one for the amending all the PDs. So just a little bit of background to refresh your memories. During orientation in January, we did mention that we were going to be coming forward with some Development Code amendments over the next year, 2 years or so. This first phase is one of several, and we are prioritizing the land use matrix right now in order to align with that Code of Ordinances amendment. The council top priority is redevelopment, so the changes that we are putting in that land use matrix do support redevelopment and reuse of existing sites, as well as business retention and attracting new target industries. So in the residential land use chart, there were some questions clarifying asked during the workshop, so I just wanted to highlight it as the kind of the bigger change on that residential land use chart, that home occupations can now be conducted within an accessory structure, so long as the home occupation is in compliance with all of the other codes and qualifications and requirements around home occupations. So this is still having the same caps, still having all the other same impact-related regulations. It is just, it doesn't have to be inside the primary structure. It can be in an accessory structure. For retail land uses, there was a question asked because it does include pharmacy, so we did change medication to pharmacy in order to just kind of emphasize that that is combined in that retail sales new category. We did standardize the conditions for drive-throughs, so rather than requiring a CUP and having the same conditions put on it several months later by council, just added them as a requirement standard throughout the city in the notes, and did confirm that that note is in the chart and includes screening and separation from single-family residential. And then kind of the big reason, and the reason that we started with the land use matrix, is to remove that land use tobacco, hookah, and vapor retail store. And we altered the definition as well to more closely match the Code of Ordinances in alignment with council direction to remove that as a use from the city. Under the services land use category, we standardized the conditions for outdoor uses, animal services, outdoor runs, and fitness center outdoor facilities, verified that those conditions were present and are accurate in the notes and are called out correctly in that chart. Similarly, we did slightly alter the commercial amusement outdoors as a permitted use. So it is now permitted in B1 and B2. However, there is still that note for a 200-foot separation from residential property. So that will still take care of that big separation between single family and the commercial areas if there's any outdoor uses. Vehicle-related land uses, similarly to the other CUPs, we have standardized the conditions that we see that come forward again and again with those CUPs. That includes distance from single family, site orientation, design, and operational conditions as part of that list of notes at the bottom of the chart. We also standardize CUP conditions for car washes, and just wanted to emphasize that a CUP is still required in B2, our general business commercial district, but in the M1 districts, car washes are now allowed by right with those standardized CUP conditions. And again, we did create that new EV charging station land use in order to align with the current market and emerging technology trends. Industrial land uses, we made a few minor changes to alcohol production, both with and without food sales, to align with market. So we altered the exact size requirements for the tasting room, and then we altered the TABC licensing requirements just to make sure that we're in alignment with TABC's renaming their licensing. And then in alignment with business retention, we have permitted food and drink bottling in order to eliminate that nonconformity with Crown bottling. And then we have permitted pharmaceuticals, packing and or blending to support that life sciences business acquisition initiative that our economic development group is working on. So in addition to the chart, that was the chart, we'd kind of covered most of the detail last week. So the PD amendments tonight, this is kind of new, but it is very, very limited in scope. So to align with those recent modifications to the Code of Ordinances and the council direction to remove hookah and tobacco sales, several PD ordinances did have to be amended in order to remove that as an allowed use. So those ordinances listed before you, 1430, 1676, 1683, 1812, 1826, 1850, 1904, 1905, 1926, 1936, 2041, 2081, 2118, 2259, 2291, and 2297 all call out SIC code 5993 tobacco stores and stands as permitted. So we are simply striking that use from those PD ordinances. And then ordinance number 2307, because it was passed after we switched to the land use matrix, it just is worded a little bit differently the way that the ordinance reads. So it is removing tobacco and hookah retail store as an allowed use. Public hearing requirements were met because we are creating some nonconformities. We did have to do some extra notification. So that extra notification was performed. Letters went out to property owners and business owners that are going to be newly legal nonconforming, in addition to the standard notification published on the website for Development Code amendments. At this time, staff has not received any inquiries, and we are not aware of any opposition. Similar to the PD ordinances, so we sent out mailers to owners within the PD, as well as within 200 feet of that PD boundary, notified publication in the newspaper and on the website, and again sent out those special letters to the property owners and business owners where an existing hookah or vape shop is currently. And we have not received any inquiries. There's been no phone calls, no emails, no tickets or anything like that. So staff is not aware of any opposition to these changes. So we'll let you open the public hearing, and then after the close of that, we can answer any questions.
Great, thank you, Laura. Sorry for going a little bit out of order there. I will now open the public hearing on the first item here, the proposed amendments to the Sugar Land Development Code. Is there anyone wishing to address the commission? No one signed up. I will now close the public hearing on the first item related to proposed amendments to the Sugar Land Development Code. Now I'll open the public hearing on the second item, proposed amendment to ordinances. Anyone wishing to address the commission? Anyone signed up? Great. I will now close the public hearing on proposed amendment ordinances. Are there any questions for Laura? Let's go order.
Are you opening for the items for consideration and action of? Are we moving on to the consideration and action of?
Yes, so now we'll move on to item 5, consideration and action on the following items. So we'll go in order here, start with Mary on the end there.
Thanks, Laura. I just have a couple clarifying questions. So I noticed with the restaurants with the drive-through, that's now permitted in all of the zoning districts. But I know in conversations that we've had, when a new development comes up, is that we've actually specifically limited the restaurants to not have drive-throughs. So would that require now a PD to come in if you guys needed to limit that?
So what it does is it's still allowed, it's permitted with the note that if it's within 200 feet of single family, it is not allowed. So as long as you're 200 feet away from single family, or you can orient your site so that your drive-through as measured is at least 200 feet from that property line.
Yeah, I know we've had instances though where we didn't want to drive through because of either the traffic circulation in the space that they had to develop. And we have a PD where, it limits it to where you cannot have a restaurant with drive-through.
Right, so that wouldn't affect PDs. This is just in our standard zoning districts. So
Right, but if somebody came in and wanted to develop in an area, they could by right then do that, even though maybe the area wouldn't be conducive to drive-through. Is that correct?
So,
So if they came in like in the business district and there was a small area to develop, but it really wouldn't be good from a traffic perspective, they still would be then by right to be able to come in and put like a drive-through restaurant, and the same would hold true for financial institution. Is that correct?
So they will still have to do the standard traffic impact analysis, and whatever mitigation comes from that traffic impact analysis in order to alleviate traffic, yes, they still have to do that. But as far as, they have the right to put a drive-through in there, yes. In any of these districts, they can put a drive-through in there so long as they're 200 feet away.
From a residential area?
From a residential
But they
property
could put
line.
it in the middle of a parking lot and cause all kinds of problems potentially. Or if they were as part of rezoning, redevelopment.
Yes, they potentially could, so long as they can mitigate any traffic impacts through the
Okay.
TIA.
So that's really the hook for you all to be able to control that.
Yes, traffic
Okay.
impact analysis reports, memos,
Okay.
things like that.
And the other thing that I noticed was around assisted living and independent senior living, there was a change where we made it allowed still for business office, but we left it conditional. No, you allowed it for general business, but for business office, it's still conditional. And I wasn't quite sure why.
So that's not a change, that's just what it currently is. We just didn't recommend removing the conditional use permit because we have some existing businesses
But I
that
think
have
for
that
business
operate.
office, you did change it to permitted from conditional.
I'm looking at, you said assisted living still requires a conditional use permit in BO. That's that first column.
In BO and B2?
B1 and B2 are now permitted by right.
Right, so that's my question, is that why would it be allowed by right for B2? Because we made that change, so
Yes.
why didn't we make it the same? You just wanted to change it to make them both allowable then?
Yes, so just based on where the districts are in the city, we did think that it's actually the same for long-term acute rehab facilities as well as personal and nursing care facility. All 4 of those uses, in addition to assisted living and the independent senior living, are now permitted, newly permitted in B1 and B2 by right, with the notes and conditions that have been historically put on them in other areas of the city.
But
We
it's still
standardized
then
those
conditional
conditions.
for business office?
Correct.
And that's just because you didn't change that?
Yes, well, we didn't think that it was as conducive in those business office areas, and it's not as compatible a use with the existing uses that were allowed in business office.
Okay. Okay. I'm just curious why one was changed and the other one wasn't, from a conditional to.
Yeah, because of
allowed.
the environment that kind of is built in B2 versus business office. So like the
Okay.
business office is kind of the Sugar Creek Center area and some of our more office park and medical office areas. And we didn't think that people who are living on site, because all four of those facilities have overnight stays there, we didn't think that was necessarily appropriate in those areas.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Parikh? Commissioner Brown?
Good evening. Thank you. First, thank you. You guys did a lot of work on this. There's a whole lot of information you've gone through, so thank you. Just so I understand, can you run me through what the smoking ordinance was last fall, where that got to with the new ordinance, and exactly what this is changing?
Yes. So the council held a workshop asking about what the smoking ordinance is as far as smoking in public places. As of December 30, so before, you could smoke inside private facilities. They were authorized under tobacco, hookah, or vape shop. You could smoke indoors so long as you had a separation from your food and your smoking. You could not have food and smoking in the same place, but if they were separate, you could have them. For instance, you could have your smoking outdoors on the patio, and you could still be a restaurant indoors. Council wanted us to not allow that anymore. So as of December 31st, if you were in operation, you can continue to operate the way you were. But any new facilities coming in, you cannot have smoking inside. If you have food, you cannot have smoking on the patio, any of that. Additionally, you cannot smoke inside any of the stores. So before you could have like a smoking room, something like that. Now you cannot have smoking inside your store. But as of the 31st, because of zoning, you could still open up a new store. While you can't have smoking in it, you can still open one. So we are now removing it from the land use code in order to not allow any new stores to open, in addition to the disallowance of smoking in those stores.
So this aligns to support what was done last fall. Okay.
Yes.
I just want to understand the timeline and how that went together. That's it. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Dawu? No, nothing. Patel? Commissioner Albrecht? All right, with that, we will move into two separate motions. I'm going to go ahead and make both of the motions, and then I'll do them individually, but I'll make the motions and then ask for a second. So at this time, I make a motion. That's very quick. Make a motion to recommend approval to the mayor and city council for the proposed amendment to the Sugarland Development Code tables 2-71.1 and 2-91.1, amending the land use matrices for residential and non-residential land uses. Can I get a second? Second. I have a second from Commissioner Dawu. We'll vote at this time. Passes unanimously among all of those present. Thank you very much. We'll move on to item B, or I'm sorry, 5B, and I will make a motion to recommend approval for the proposed amendment to ordinances 1430, 1676, 1683, 1812, 1826, 1850, 1904, 1905, 1926, 1936, 2041, 2081, 2118, 2259, 2291, 2297, removing SIC 5993, tobacco stores and stands, and ordinance 2307, removing tobacco and hookah retail store as allowable uses. This is to align with the recent modifications to the Code of Ordinance, Chapter 3, Article 8, which further limited smoking in public places and took effect December 31st, 2023. Can I get a second? I have a second by Commissioner Patel. We'll vote at this time. That passes unanimously among those present. Thank you, Commissioners. We'll move on to item 6, reports. Planning and Zoning Commission liaison report for the February 20th, 2024 meeting. Commissioner Hallbrook, was that you? It is me. Very good. We'll move on to item B, city staff report.
We don't have anything major either. Just see you all tomorrow morning, hopefully. State of the City is in the morning at 7:30, bright and early at the Marriott. And then TBD on March right now, so we may have some one thing or we may cancel. So we'll let you know. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Lauren. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn. Thank you all. We are adjourned.